I was about to record this, and then my son stopped me and wanted me to dance to the Winnie the Pooh song that was playing on his TV show. But anyways, that was a clickbait title. I mean, Mark Millar really didn't destroy DC and Marvel, but he did destroy their marketing and how wasteful they've been for the last decade. Let's take a look at it. Take a look at it now. Boom. There we go. Mark Millar. Netflix executive Mark Millar. Mark Millar, who's making way more money than any of the other comic pros out there, allegedly has been told 95% of the comic book audience is not on Twitter. Says statistic must be mind-blowing for the company marketing departments talking about the big two. Allegedly, he alleges that he got this information from somebody at one of the big two in their marketing department. Veteran comic book writer Mark Millar has claimed that he was recently informed by a marketing expert connected to one of the big two publishers that 95% of the comic book audience is not on Twitter. There's, of course, a character that you're all familiar with, Captain America. And he's saying, "You think this letter on my head stands for France?" No, Cap, I don't. I think it stands for America. Millar revealed this supposed statistic on May 28th, tweeting from his personal Twitter account. Here's an amazing stat I heard yesterday. Only 10% of the comic buyers have a Twitter, and only half of those accounts are actually active. Meaning that if you're on Twitter and you're trying to get things to change about comic books, they really don't care. But, however, we know that they're catering towards the loud, woke voices on Twitter. They're catering towards that mob. And the people that actually read comics are nowhere on Twitter. Not on Twitter at all. Those people don't care about comics. They don't buy them. The people that buy comics are going to buy comics because they've bought comics for the last 30, 40 years. It's the same people. The average age of the American comic book industry reader is pretty old. Let's look. I'm going to look up the statistic. See if we can find one. All right, so I couldn't find a statistic. All right? I looked. I couldn't find one easily. Let's move on. My belief is that the age of the average comic book reader has been getting older every year, which tells you, I think I read that somewhere. If not, oh well, we'll not use that as a point for the argument. The argument, let's base it on these statistics that we have here. 95% of the people reading comics aren't on Twitter. So why are the big two listening to the mob on Twitter? Here is the most interesting thing about what Millar said. It says, in response to another user who broached the topic of the well-documented trend of comic book professionals using their social media platforms to engage in divisive and antagonistic behavior, Millar stated, some people stagger through the street, screaming at clouds, ignore them, and focus on the fun stuff. Remember why you got into comics in the first place, the thrill of your first convention, and the thousands of people who love this just as much as you do. I've never been interested in the various Twitter wars, and this puts the whole thing in perspective. They're irrelevant, guys. The reality is, this stuff is irrelevant to your lives. And I really don't care if Marvel and DC go under. They don't make comics anymore. Because there's so many comics I've never read in my life. I can go back and read those and enjoy those, and people are making their own characters, and they're making their own stories, and there's Japanese comics, and there's comics from Europe, and there's comics from here, and there's independent creators. I don't need a new Superman story. I don't need a new Batman story. I understand a lot of you like that stuff and you want to keep reading the same stuff. I don't. I don't care. I'll see an adaptation if I hear it's good. I'll watch a TV show if it comes out and we'll check this out, see if I like it. But for the most part, I don't care. If I never read another new Superman comic ever again in my life, one that is written after I say this right now, my life is still complete. I've still lived a satisfactory life. I don't need Superman comics to be happy, to be joyful. Anyways, my 2 cents.
Explosion! Fly Fox!